My name is Adam Laredo. I am a 10th year teacher at Ogden School and a third generation CPS educator. So today we are here protesting the misuse of TIF funds by City Hall. Instead of using them for appropriate purposes like a library in every school, helping to reinforce the infrastructure of our educational system, City Hall chooses to actively give these TIF funds to millionaires and billionaires, the people who don't need them when it's time for our children. I'm also one of the arrestees that protested and occupied Bank of America. Then we were protesting with the Chicago Teachers Union. The Bank of America's reluctance, even their very reluctance to renegotiate toxic swaps, they're basically profiting off of the backs of our children. So we're here protesting the mayor's control of the purse strings of the TIF funds. He refuses to absolutely see what our children need, what the school system needs, what the city of Chicago needs. Instead, he chooses to actively benefit, the cronies and the billionaires and millionaires of this city. Exactly the people who do not need the money, giving them more, lining their pockets with the money that should be going to the working class.
My name is Georgia Waller. I'm here in front of City Hall to talk about how devastating the cuts are going to be and have been with our schools. We have students, special needs students, that are losing services, nurses, psychologists, social workers, at a time when our city and our country is going through devastating effects from economics. Our children need to have these services in the school. We have children that see horrific things. Psychologists would be needed in our schools, our social workers, because some of our parents are suffering economic distress. They would be important to have in our schools, and our nurses. Nurses do more than just put bandaids on wounds. Nurses help children with hygiene. They help children with all kinds of illnesses, to be prepared on how to deal with their illnesses. So those things are important. The classrooms don't have resources. Our children are suffering, and we wonder why they are in the streets and they're rebelling. It's because they feel no one cares. We're here to show them that we do care. We're here to show them that we will fight. This is the next generation, and I'm pleased to see that the students are taking ownership of their education. They're in the streets as well as we are. They know that the key to their future is basically a good education. We won't stop fighting. They won't stop fighting until we get this thing right. So my message to City Hall would be prepared. We're not giving up. Pretty soon there'll be these students that are out here fighting for their education. They'll be sitting in those seats that you hold.
Mr. Brothers, my name is Jesse Sharkey. I'm the Vice President of the CTU. Thanks for coming out. We're just going to say a couple of words before we march over to the River Point development. We're here today to talk about the connection between the savage cuts that are coming to our schools, including layoffs, including unilateral 7% pay cuts in the middle of a school year, on top of the layoffs that have already come, on top of the cuts to special education funding that have already come. And we're here to draw the connection between those cuts and the tax increment finance or TIF program. TIFs are very much a slush fund for rich developers and for politically connected politicians to dole out to their friends and donators. The first problem with TIFs is that they're not a transparent program. We do not really know definitively how much money are in these funds. And that's a problem, because these funds are based on public dollars. So when you get your tax bill says taxes that go to the schools. That's how the taxing authority comes. That's the way it's called on your tax bill. But then what happens is that these TIFs siphon money from your tax bill to go directly into 160 different funds around the city. So we don't really know how much money is in them. It is a murky, opaque, non-transparent slush fund. But we know that conservatively, there's at least $150 million in these funds, maybe as much as $300 million, that is not allocated.
Give it to the schools.
If you talk about how much money is in these funds that maybe is promised, but there are no contracts and no binding legal obligations to these, it's hundreds of millions or more. So we're talking about, if you're talking about projects that could easily be reversed, or promises that were made but were never signed off on, you could be talking as much as $400, $500, $600 million. So there's some real money in these funds. That's the first thing. The second thing is the priorities of the TIF programs are all wrong. There's over $100 million in 3 TIF projects alone. The TIF project that we're about to march to, which is at River Point for $30 million, $55 million for the Marquee Marriott, and then another $17 million in TIF funds for a luxury high-rise that's going up in the Lakeview neighborhood. This is money that should be going to schools. This is schools' tax dollars. The mayor of the city of Chicago could take the money that's currently unallocated and move it to the schools and reverse the cuts today. Look at these developments. Look at these buildings. They're gorgeous. They're deluxe. They glimmer in luxury. Those are our school dollars at work, sisters and brothers. There they are. Your school tax dollars at work. Over my shoulder, the River Point development, $30 million of school TIF money at work on this high-rise. And they say Chicago is broke and can't afford a good public schools. No way. This is a developer, Larry Levy, who owns a chain of high-end restaurants, who's given thousands of donations to Rahm and Rounder. This is his development that he's using public tax dollars that belong to public schools to fund. It's an outrage and it has to be stopped.
Bankers and billionaires ought to pay. We pay taxes. Why don't they? Bankers and billionaires ought to pay. We pay taxes. Why don't they? Bankers and billionaires ought to pay. We pay taxes. Why don't they?
But these guys are getting $30 million to some of the wealthiest people in the city for another development downtown when there's already office space in these buildings. What do we need this for?
You don't. Shut it down.
This is a real question of priorities for our city. The mayor could snap his fingers tomorrow and release hundreds of millions of dollars that are sitting unused. There's hundreds of millions more that are being used in places they never should. How can we justify $30 million here with another round of cuts to our schools, right?
My name is Raymond Wool, a 22-year veteran teacher, Chicago Teachers Union, and a trustee on the Chicago Teachers Pension Fund. Behind me is the riverfront development that the city gave $30 million of our hard-earned taxpayer TIF dollars to multimillionaire Larry Levy and his brother Mark. Take a look at that arch. These guys are from St. Louis. I would like to add one more thing for you to go online and Google Larry Levy. You'll see that he's worth over $600 million, has hundreds of restaurants, including most of the restaurants at Disney World. Water tower placed it all over Chicago and the USA. This man needed $30 million of our tax dollars to build this building. The poor guy.
By the way, if they cut our pay 7% and make an illegal and unilateral cut, we will respond.
We'll be back.
That threat will not be taken lying down. We consider that an unfair labor practice, and our union could respond in that situation with an unfair labor practice strike. So I just want everyone to hear that. But for right now, what we're saying is this is a solution which doesn't require that. This is a solution where we can avoid cuts, we can do the right thing for our schools by marching over and asking wealthy TIF developers like Larry Levy to give back this money.